Hello, welcome to Resilience Gone Wild. I am here as I love being with my fabulous producer, Kai Sorensen, director of podcasts for BLI. And how are you? We haven't really chatted that much lately.
Yeah, doing okay. I mean, man, it'd be great if we could connect every day, right? But I know you're out there volunteering your time to Loggerhead right now, and I don't know, it always seems like every other day you're in a golf tournament, which makes me jealous because we haven't played golf yet.
It did get canceled today.
Okay, which is why
we had a crazy storm last night with this amazing lightning that we were watching for a while, and it was really close, so we were outside and then we weren't outside. I'm not really sure if lightning can go through a doorway or not, but...
Not the podcast for that. Yeah, no, one of my favorite things is to be on a porch covered during a thunderstorm. That's what I grew up doing. I'm from Nebraska, so big thunderstorms there. Yeah. So it's very nostalgic feeling for a thunderstorm to come through.
It's good to feel nature, right? Like to have that in
the power of it. As long as there's no tornado behind it, you're always down for a thunderstorm.
Yep, and we do have some in Florida. You have a lot more in Nebraska, but we do have some here.
But so this has been a fascinating series, and I know you've gotten a lot of direct feedback, which is, awesome when someone texts like, please text us. You enjoyed the episode. It was great.
I usually get a few, and I got like this swarm of people who said that, and I haven't had a chance to check in to say what exactly resonated, but I think it was about people coming out and really fully being themselves. Which is really what Indigo is about. Like, there's so much superpower hiding within each and every one of us that we think we're humble, but we're really just not giving our all to our life and being in our full and giving our all to others and to the world. So,
it was something, because often as I'm editing your podcast, it's a great opportunity for me to journal after the fact. And, it's so interesting how, I don't know, maybe half of your time, you lean into a superpower, right? Like maybe detail oriented or empathetic or, those kinds of things that you like you highlight about yourself. And then there's like another part of your life where you don't really lean into those superpowers in times where you need them, like maybe in times of conflict or times of uncertainty. So it was really fascinating being able to identify what I perceive as a superpower of mine and then
share. Come on. No humility. Give us one. I'm going to say, I knew that about you, right? But go ahead.
I think one of the superpowers I was circling in my journal was empathy. But empathy for yourself is something I lack, right? So it's like, it's really powerful when you can identify that emotion you have for someone else, like my son or a best friend or my wife. But then,
or your dog.
Or my dog, which Elroy, we went to the vet. I'll tell you about it in a bit. But how often do I have empathy for myself? How often do I cut myself slack or give myself grace? And it's just really interesting how you can just like flip that conversation for yourself.
And Kai and I have talked about, you and I have talked about perfectionism and the challenges that we have with it and just having to say it's good enough to just move on because otherwise you get stuck. And, empathy for ourselves around just being okay with that and honoring that and honoring the emotions that are so tough to deal with when we don't want to say we're finished because it's not perfect, right?
Right, absolutely. And, on the pragmatic side of this series is this denim, right? So like being a lot more conscious of, I love denim. I'm in a psych rock band. I don't know, you knew that. So there's a lot of denim being worn in my life, noticing like I have this vintage Calvin Klein denim jacket that I love, and the quality is amazing. It's probably been around for 50 years, and it'll be around. I hope Miles will wear it someday. It'll be one of those pieces.
But then recycling and reusing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then I have this pair of denim jeans that I got at Target because I needed some jeans, and when I wear them now, I'm like, these are going to fall apart in a year. I don't even think they're actually denim. It's just that oil, that petroleum-based issue that we kind of been talking about. So
it's so funny though, right? Like, did you even think of this before the episode? Like before listening?
That must be denim.
We're not aware of stuff, right?
Yeah, we're absolutely not aware. And it's so easy to go to a thrift store and find exactly what you're looking for. And when it concerns denim. But tell us a little bit about Nicholas before we get to the interview.
Yeah, I mean, I met him online. One of my just amazing connections that I've made on LinkedIn with so many brilliant people. And he is just trying to change the space of fast fashion, and the world that is behind the scenes needs to be uncovered, like indigo. We think indigo is just this like lovely little green plant, and then it turns out it has this unbelievable hidden stuff behind it. Sometimes that's not such a good story, right? So when you look at fast fashion and you look at the history of denim and what's really going on in the world of that we live in around everything we wear. I mean, we're not even going to talk about food or anything else right now. We're just talking about clothing. And if we really start to uncover what's hiding, it's a really ugly story, but it can be a really beautiful one if we start with, he's got this huge thing called Denim deal. He's got all these partnerships all around the world, big in Egypt with Egyptian cotton and trying to use a minimum of 20% recycled in the future of cotton and denim. And it really changes everything. I mean, the scale of clothing around the world, just think about it. I don't even know what the numbers are, trillions of dollars, right? Of both waste and cost. I mean, in places like South America, there's deserts that are literally being taken over by dumps of fashion, of clothing that is just thrown out. I mean, literally covering deserts worth, where people, somebody's decided that is useless land and that's what it should be used for.
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly, probably the pair of jeans I bought at Target, the ones that didn't pass quality check, are probably in those piles in the desert. Yeah.
Or somebody who wore it a couple of times and said, this isn't really my thing, I'm throwing it out.
Yeah.
Or I'm giving it away to the thrift shop and nobody wanted it. So.
Yeah, and and I think one thing that popped up for me with Nicholas is just how impressive he is, his passion. And again, I think we saw this, and we'll see this in some interviews coming up with the Tasmanian Devils, but how it's never too late in your life to make that pivot and to make that shift.
Yeah, I do.
Because he had an entire career before he realized that his pursuits and passions were actually elsewhere, and maybe a little contradictory to the career he was leading. So just really fascinating stuff. And
you make a really important point. I mean, in both of these cases that Kai's noting about, the really awesome guy that we talked to about Tasmanian Devils, who's in Australia, is that it gets uncomfortable in life when you're doing work and you're living just in conflict with your values. Something just doesn't feel right, and you're on this just churning conveyor belt of doing, and you don't stop because you're like, oh, it's okay, it's this is the way the world works, I can't really fight the world. And then if you stop and you say, wait, I can change the way I behave, the way I live my life, the way living my purpose instead of being uncomfortable, it changes everything and changes the world. So in both of these cases, there was this huge shift of how they were living their lives and how they decided to live their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. But shifting topics a little bit, you were telling me a really interesting story about, was it friends that were visiting a national park that kind of been affected by a lot of the cuts we've seen lately?
Yeah, some friends were planning a vacation around now, and they were planning to go to the national parks. It's busy always in the national parks. It's not as big. They've been around since 1916, being protected, and they decided to travel outside the United States instead. They had become aware that there was this massive firing from our current government of all the rangers, like a ton of rangers, and the people who literally take care of the bathrooms and have the keys to everything and keep us safe and make these places accessible and safe for both humans and nature. And it was really beautiful to hear that the judicial system has put a stop to those firings. I mean, all those people, 1,000+ people, had been fired and had to figure out what to do with themselves, and these are not highly paid people in the first place. So they're probably living hand to mouth and just
a labor of love.
Labor of love, right? And then had to figure it all out. So hopefully many or most of them or all of them are going to be back, and they've got to hire now for the seasonal workers for the busy times. And I'm really happy that there's a lot of other structure that exists in this country to stop at least some of the damage that's being done to our environment and our world of nature here. I mean, the drill and the cutting down of national parks for forestry, and, the water pollution that's going to happen, and all the other ripple effects that are not that long term, but longer term than let's just cut a tree and make it into something for today. It's a huge issue in this day and age. And
my mother-in-law was just here, and she's from DC, and my father-in-law had a career in USAID, and my sister-in-law was working for USAID, and I think in those instances, it's not that you lost your job, it's your entire industry is gone. So like as you go into the job market, there's no like someone else can help you out because it just doesn't exist. And not only that, all of these extremely capable and master to doctorate level types of positions are just that are open in like private sectors are just flooded with thousands of candidates. So I know it's really scary for a lot of people out there who have lost their jobs in this way, but it's encouraging to, as you say, see that some of these checks and balances maybe are starting to work. I mean, there's a lot to remain to be seen, but the fact that we're entering spring into the vacation time and, fingers crossed, our parks will be staffed and we'll be able to enjoy what is so beautiful about this country is the National Park Service. So
yeah, cross my fingers.
Yeah. So on a positive note, before we get to the interview, want to read a review?
Sure.
All right. Does Beak or ring a bell?
Does not.
Must be, it's obviously their username. So Beak24, 5 stars, get inspired. Jessica has a wonderful way of tying in themes that relate to human experiences with those of our neighbors, of the animal kingdom and the natural world around us. The topics are relevant, captivating, and they give the listener a broader view of how resilience can be a powerful and positive force in our lives, an enjoyable podcast, and a must-listen for inspiration and personal growth.
Thank you, Beak24. So appreciate your posting the review, and that we're so thrilled that it's resonating and bringing you joy and resilience. So thank you.
And if you're listening right now, before you get to the interview, just hit pause real quick. Actually, you don't have to hit pause. If you're not driving, just go leave us a review. It really does help the podcast stay relevant in the machine, in the algorithm, in what controls the podcasting world. We want this message of resilience and love for nature to get to the right people. So just leave us a review and we'd really appreciate it. All right. Should we get to the interview?
Yeah, great. Thanks.
All right. Here we go.
Welcome, Nicolas Prophte. You can correct me because it's French and I tried. So I tried to learn French many a time and there's a mind block.
It's never too late, Jessica. It's never too late. It's a mindset, you see?
You're right.
You can learn anything.
But you have to prioritize you get to prioritize. So we can talk about French later, but it is a total mindset. It's a mind block that when I was in second grade, my teacher made me feel stupid in the way I was pronouncing the word for hello, which I am so uncomfortable pronouncing. So I went to Paris and I went to the Sorbonne and I tried to learn French, and like it went on like that. And it's still, you're 100% right. It's a mindset. And that is what we're here to talk about. So awesome. Isn't it great how everything works out that way? Okay. So I am so excited that you're here. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but just to like give a couple of key points that will light me up and everybody else up. We're talking denim. We're talking fast fashion versus transformative ways of, transforming your mindset around getting away from fast fashion and recycled cotton and changing the way we think about how we use stuff and clothing and take care of our world. So yes. Okay. So tell us about yourself. Yay.
Myself. So I'm French, 53 years old. My whole career in the fashion industry by choice or in coincidence, but we can come back after to that, why I came to the fashion industry. And mainly on the brand side. So I always work on the brand side, always the head of strategy of sourcing, strategy of buying, relationship with the suppliers, industry, strategy in terms of sustainability, what we can make in innovation, and my specialty, let's say expertise, it's denim. I've done many all product categories in my life, but the one I stick with, the one is really in my vein, my blue blood is really the Indigo, so it's the denim industry. For me, it's, sorry if I pause here, but it's extremely creative industry, complex also, I would say, but it's a kind of community that we have. We know. We're like a big family, but very interesting. I've always been passionate about this, by this industry. So yeah,
it's so interesting though, because anything you don't know about seems simple, right? Like, so denim seems like there's just how complicated, but it is, as you just said, it's super complex and interesting, and it's about community and it's about the whole system. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's extremely fragmented. There is many hands. Many suppliers, every different step in the production process is very unique. Indigo, why we use this old plant. We don't use plant anymore. Unfortunately, it's petrol-based dye stuff. That's the problem. But it comes from a very, very long time. Indigo, it was even the Egyptian it's a long time ago that we play with indigo as a dye stuff, and it's quite fascinating. So a lot of people, a lot of countries, but also, big dilemma, the last 20 years, 30 years, realizing, producing this iconic, because for me, the most fashion iconic is a pair of jeans. If you look at the story of jeans coming from, they said Genova in Italy, coming from US, or has been a long story, but very iconic for the music side, movies. I think it's still relevant. All generations, young generation, everybody adopt this pair of fabric. So that's why also I was quite inspired by the mindset and the rebel. I'm a kind of rebel, always contest the status quo, but we'll come back to that. But that's the product category I always embrace, yeah.
Did you say you're like a river? Is that what you just said?
No, I say the rebellion spirits,
Yes,
rebellion, Denim is always, a little bit the guys, parties, thinking out of the box. It's a little bit different. Yeah.
I told my producer that you reminded me of Bono. And honestly, there's just so many layers. So I'm sure I'm not the only person who's ever said that. But make sure, everybody, that you turn on the YouTube video versus just the audio, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So rebellion, shaking things up. I remember the first conversation we had. It was all about, and that's what you're doing, right? You can't transform without breaking the system and recreating it and transforming it. So that's so interesting, though, about indigo. I hadn't thought about indigo. We didn't talk about indigo. I did an article recently in my newsletter about the finding blue and blue purples in nature is not easy, right? There's these incredibly complex processes to be able to create the dye in nature that's used in all of these ancient, whether it's the talit in the Jewish world, or it was the Mayan blue and the indigo of jeans. And just the fact that indigo is part of the Roy G. Biv rainbow, which is, a color that I don't think people think about. So I look forward to you telling us more about indigo, because I think it has a really deep spiritual history, I think.
Unfortunately, the reality of the indigo we know today, it's not very inspiring. Look, it's a synthetic molecule. I think it's been invented by Bayer in the 19th century. And in a way, so it's a petrol base.
Right. We're trying to get away from petrol-based.
We are trying. I think in my career, I could play. You can play with the natural, we call it Indigo fera plant. Mainly was in India, and I think they're still trying now to get it back. Because don't forget, this ancestral expertise or know-how also was lost because there was no demand. And they lost it, but I think they're trying now to get it back. I'm in contact with some of the suppliers in India that they use this plant, but in a more modern way. I mean, I'm not going to go too technical, but that they can produce big batch at scale, saying that it's a natural base. So that there is a lot of stuff. I work with a big company in US at that time, Stony Creek. It's farmers in US. Also planting indigo back and try to have this new and try to create a kind of ecosystem with big brands in US, and the demand was difficult. I think the problem of it's like polyester in the fast fashion. It's so cheap, indigo, synthetic indigo, and when you come back to this natural base, the price you multiply by 10, by 20. So the economical or the business model is extremely challenging. But it's quite fascinating. There is a lot of stuff happening the last few years. New tech, new startup looking at biosynthetic or biosynthesis of indigo. So using really food waste, using different things. So really, biochemistry is exploding everywhere, I believe. And some of them based in US, but also in France, are tackling specifically the indigo market because it's huge. Indigo market, I think we're producing 6 billion pair of jeans per year. So you can imagine the amount of indigo molecule and chemistry that you need. Some of the shakers are arriving in the market to contest and to take part of a piece of this monopoly of a few groups having this synthetic molecule at this moment. So there is some changes happening now, small scale, but I believe that in few years there will be newcomers, and we are looking also at sorry, I'm going technical, but Indigo digital printing.
Wow.
It's also quite interesting what's happening now. So we could avoid this long and process and water consumption energy with digital printing, but with Indigo. And you can replicate exactly the same details, the fading, the pockets.
Wait a minute. So you can use 3D printing and put the fiber, the natural fiber of, or partially recycled cotton through a 3D printer, if I have the right technology.
It's not a 3D printer. It's a classic printer, ink printer, but you could replicate on the grayish fabric, on the cotton, or even on the blend.
And put it on top. So you're
printing, and you can just print on top of it. And you can print reverse, the back side and the other side. And I saw some samples. It's quite amazing. Even me as an expert, visually, I could not feel the difference. I could not see the difference. Yeah, there is some guys working on that since a few years now, but we can see some very, very nice samples. There is a lot of technology behind. There is a lot of software, AI, how to help to have really these super refined details. And it's quite mind-blowing, and the lead time and the flexibility, it's very interesting. So things are moving.
It's amazing. So, it's this just to the aspect of system, who would have thought, I didn't, that when you think about creating the 6 billion pairs of denim jeans that get made every year, that we're not just talking about the material, we're talking about the color of the indigo and the complexity of that, and then the whole system that's needed, and getting away from, reusing and recycling so that we're not using all new material and just throwing old stuff out, and finding new ways to replace whatever the artificial, the synthetic inputs are to the system. Because what do we want to wear in our bodies? What do we want to put in our bodies? I mean, there needs to be more thought, right, about what we're doing, not just to our world, but our own bodies as well.
Yeah, but look, you can debate on the consumer behavior. Do they think? Some of them, yes, probably they do. But most of them, what is the buying act? What is the trigger? Yeah.
Right.
And I think brands are extremely, or fast fashion or ultra fast fashion, they are here to stimulate you all the time, to bombarding you, and that you have to consume things that you don't need at the end of the day. But unfortunately, the fashion industry in general, but also the denim industry, a pair of jeans became a commodity year by year, decade by decade. Look, I have 25 years experience. I've been buying my whole life. I can tell you that 25 from the price we can buy a pair of jeans today in Bangladesh or 25 years ago, probably decreased. It decreased. So the FOB, the added value, it becomes a commodity. And after you wonder why, who is skipping one of the steps? Who is skipping something on the human side? It's not normal that we have inflation for the last 25 years, inflation. So as a consumer, you pay more. But from a buying perspective, I can tell you the price are the tighter or even lower than before. So there is something purely mathematical here that's not working. So there is something wrong here.
Right. And I'm sure all the inputs to the system. So we're talking labor, how we value human labor, and how we value the destruction of our planet, and whether we care or not. And those are just two of the pieces of the inputs. Yeah. I mean, there you get your circular economy and your recycled, and, all of this transformative thinking about caring about how the system works, and wondering why some things are cheaper than they should be and some things are not. Let me stop you for one second, because I love to hear the story of how people make these transformations from you started in and spent your life in branding and in denim and in fashion. And then, among other experiences, probably you went to Ghana, right? And had this aha moment that changed some of your thinking and transformed your goals and purpose, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
tell us that story.
It was not Ghana, but it was, it's okay. No problem. I had the chance to have quite a lot of responsibility young. So I traveled a lot my whole life. Probably today for the younger generation, it will be even more difficult to be exposed to the real industry. But I have the chance to very soon to travel to Bangladesh, to India, to Pakistan, to Cambodia, all the Southeast of Asia. And from the books that I learned, because I'm a textile engineer, you are confronted to the rough reality of what is a factory, how it's made. who are the people behind the machines, in which condition they are working. You can imagine Bangladesh or India with 35 degrees or 40 degrees outside, sometimes without any airco, you can imagine. But I think you see what it's in the factories, because don't forget that they customize and you're more than welcome as a buyer. So everything is prepared probably a month before. So what you see is always the best. Yeah. You will never see the worst. But if you are curious and if you see around the factory, going at the corner, you can see also, the rivers. You can see the life condition of these people where they're living close by the factory. I remember my first trip in China. Yeah, people were living in the factory. Yeah? That was the Chinese model 25 years ago. And they would come back only for the Chinese New Year to their homeland, to their family. It was really shocking for me, yeah, because they were here 24 hours at the service of the boss. And if they were late or lead time squeezing for the buyers, they had to, probably work shift, night shift, day shift, weekends. So you're confronted and you say, wow, that's tough. But I was young, I have to prove myself, I have to make the best. So you look at it, you understand it, but in a way you have to deliver. Yeah, you have to deliver for the brand. So you have to make your own job. So you continue step by step. I think this you get in maturity, you get more concerned. And 25 years ago, nobody was really talking about sustainability. Nobody was talking about resources, social a little bit. The mindset started to change 15 years ago. At least the denim industry was quite finger pointed because of the laundry system, because of the washes, industrial washes. So in a way, we were the first one, not targeted, the first one asking the question, are we doing the right stuff? Can we do it in a different way? So I think it started to germ here, the idea, can we change a little bit the process to be less water consumption, how we can have a look at the chemistry, or even the exposure of chemistry, a lot of hand work with chemistry, with chemicals, with spray, hand scrapping, this huge factory. You could see 5,000 people scrapping jeans like that with the dust and etc. So they start to reflect, and some of the people, like startup, to say, look, probably we have a better technology to avoid all this, and of course to make a business case. There is also always a business case. So step by step, the journey came down, and even me, always interested about innovative process, being more and more interested, still looking at the product as we need to deliver and we need to create a desirable product for a brand. That's part of the DNA of a brand, and that's why we want to offer to the consumer. But at the same time, looking at the how is made, it's also as much as important. And I think step by step, I shift my mindset year by year. I move away a little bit. I delegated all the buying process, etc. And I was more focused on the how we can create still this beautiful pair of jeans, but in a more sustainable or responsible way. So it shifts. So it's exposure to factories. So on one side, and the other exposure is how brands behave, how top leadership behave. It's all about numbers. It's all about shareholders. It's about EBITDA. It's about margins. It's about selling the company, how much we can sell for. So it's purely dollars at the end of the day. And the way they were behaving on the other side, the way we were buying to the factory, these two worlds for me was so far away, two universe. I was saying, my God, I'm working in a system, in a way, an actor of, and I'm part of it. So you start to reflect, okay, I'm part of it. This is why I pay my invoice or the education of my daughters. But can I challenge the system? Can I think a little bit out of the box and creative thinking and try to? You cannot escape to the boss and to the financial metrics, or you can release the pressure, but try to offer something different. So I think these two extremes from one side to the other, how I could contribute to something different, and how to address some of these issues.
There's a number of things that just are sparking in me that I want to follow up with you, and then ask you to tell the story about the decision to do something different, like to break away from being part of that system and to take the risk and move forward and break out. But one of the things that's occurring to me is it's interesting, like, fast fashion versus jeans. I always think of denim as this like resilient, duration oriented material. plan to keep jeans and use them longer. And that's like a point of, at least I thought it was a point of pride that this is a longer use item and that it can get beaten up and it can get reused and that kind of thing. So that's one question, that sort of I would think gives you kind of an advantage for stepping into a new way to think about how you buy your jeans that fits with that more long-lasting, rugged mentality. So I'll start there. Does anything come up around that, or I have that wrong?
No. Look. The story of a pair of jeans it's coming from workwear. It's workwear. So it started. I know some suppliers in Italy starting to produce fabric in the 60s, 70s. The first market was workwear. It was not the fashion. So really, to have this rough, I'm not going back to the cowboy or whatever, but this rough fabric that can long last. You don't wash it or whatever. So that was the first purpose of Indigo fabric. But step by step, as fashion step in, the functionality disappeared or fade out. And today, if you look at, we talk about durability. I'm working on durability because I think it's one of the angles that legislation is going to step in. And they are right, by the way. Durability of a product, of a lifetime product, what it is, how we measure it. And I think if you look at durability of pair of jeans today, my God, some of you throw it away. I mean, it's the quality is not the fabric, the way you cannot buy a pair of jeans at $19 and expect something sustainable and durable as a quality. That's not possible, and it's not because, as I said before, something had been squeezed on the yarn, on the fabric, on the
quality.
So that's why durability, unfortunately, but I think it's going to be, at least in Europe, durability, it's one of angle that legislation is really stepping.
Got it.
And awesome. I think it's a good direction.
Yeah. It's just an interesting thing. Like, I was an identity consultant years ago. What's the identity of jeans? And you take this durability and workhorse that you only have to have one or two pairs and they last you forever. And it goes on like that, to it being a fast fashion, disposable, poor quality thing. I mean, you have to come from that and now try to get it pulled back into redefining it again as that durable quality fabric and try to reuse that stuff they've come up with.
You imagine the paradox. We use a raw fabric, strong denim fabric, and what do? We use it artificially in big industrial laundry to make it pre-worn for the consumer. So in a way, from a very high quality point of view of the fabric, we do everything reverse. we are going to use it, and to make it, the cotton is lost, and because it's a stone wash, there is a lot of mechanical abrasion, etc. So we had at the final a product less durable, and during all this process, we consume water, chemistry, expose people with bad processes. So we do completely things reverse. So if you want to have the best pair of jeans today, it's a rinse raw, like I do. You buy a raw fabric, a raw jeans, and it's going to fade on you. It's going to be your own personality, and you don't wash it. Yeah, that's the best way. But we try to reproduce this world,
and we're even tearing them. Like the more rips in them, the more expensive they.
Yeah, and we repair them and we resell it, and they are the most expensive one because there are many labor behind.
So tell us about your breakout, and you're starting your own world, your own new approach to denim and this whole goal of not starting from scratch with new material every time and using and creating a healthier system and a circular system that's not completely dependent on some artificial short-term bottom line that isn't even really calculated correctly.
So look, the approach we have, the Denim deal is a foundation. So we are an NGO, so there is no money involved. But what we try to do is to simplify for the brands, for the industry.
Wait, before you go on, just start because I know what you just said, but just slow that down and just describe that. So your role is not production. Your role is advising, right? Yeah, so you're advising. An NGO.
So we are an NGO, and we build this ecosystem, this collaborative platform between public, so governments, authorities, and private. And private, it's brands, but also the all industry stakeholders involved. So what we try to do is to stimulate together and to focus and to align on only one metric that we choose. It's the minimum of 20% post-consumer recycled cotton in a new fabric in the denim world. So we want to have this metric aligned between legislator, brands, and industry stakeholders. Let's, guys, instead of focusing, every brand has their own strategy or fiber strategy or whatever. We just say, guys, the best sustainable cotton is the recycled one. So from waste, that's the best one. We don't have to go to landfill to agriculture or whatever. That's something we take from waste, post-consumer waste. That's very important. Post-consumer, not industrial waste, and how we can recreate a yarn or a fabric with it. So we just established this it's not a basic standard, but very clear KPI, industry KPI that can be measured, that can be verified, and that can be monitored by everybody. And we said, guys, can we make sure that it becomes a kind of industry standard for the whole industry? So step by step, what we try to do is to bring brands on board, brings a legislator. So the Dutch government was really our first sponsor at that time, still with us, and to be aligned also with we call it EPR, so extended producer responsibility, because step by step, even in US, California just signed a bill a few months ago that the brands distributing or producing this article will be responsible also for the landfill and for the end of life of the product.
Yeah.
So in a way, we try to look at, let's leverage the power of legislation, how we can find a very pragmatic solutions for the market, and to be concrete in the action and collaboration. So the technology is here, it's at scale, but some of the brands are still reluctant to adopt this KPI. Some of the industry, they don't know about the technology it is. So we are here to connect and to connect the dots between all these stakeholders and to make sure we have this reverse supply chain extremely effective, and that step by step we create a movement, more and more demand. This is the scale. Scale is very important. More and more demand, and we are more and more aligned. And then the business model, the pricing, the costing, everything's go down. So at the beginning, it was a little bit a roller coaster. I think we were one of the leader or the front runners. But step by step, with volumes, when you bring millions of pieces and you ask the same thing to the industry is extremely capable to adapt, to invest, if they have visibility and commitment from the brands. So that's what we do the last 4 years. Successfully in Europe, we started in Netherlands, and now we are expanding. We are going to launch in France. We are going to launch in Germany. We're in discussion with India, and I'm approaching also the US market to see how we can build such an organization also in North America.
So you're saying the producers have the technologies there, the will is there, because it makes it's an good economic choice, especially if they're responsible for the downstream impact of production, to use 20% that's already been produced and doesn't have to go through that whole process, and cotton doesn't have to be grown and dyed and all that. But it's the brands that have to decide that it's a value add to their brand, right?
The mindset shift for us, the most difficult is to foster the demand, to make sure brands are collaborating, contributing, asking for this KPI. And there is still, for many reasons or different region of the world, but different lack of expertise, some of them, about what is circularity, what is recycled cotton fiber. There is less and less technical expertise in brands. There is a lack of maturity most of the time. And after, there is plenty of excuses. Quality is not going to be the same as virgin cotton. It's going to be more pricing because my margin. So there is a lot of excuses from the brands not to adopt it. So this is where we have to step in. This is where we are not in education, but we provide a lot of webinars, workshops, proof of concept and pilots to show them, guys, look, this is the same fabric without recycled cotton and with only virgin cotton. Can you make the difference? And we did organize this blind test. It was quite funny, to be honest.
Look at Pepsi. Recycled, not recycled.
Same fabric. And say, guys, look, same fabric. One is with recycled and one is without. Designers, they think they know forever, or buyers or whatever, sourcing manager or quality manager. They had no clue. They could not distinguish.
Well, so you said earlier that you couldn't even tell. And this is what you do.
But sometimes we have to arrive to this kind of workshop, extremely concrete, with meals in the room, providing all the collection. And we say, guys, it's very simple. Everything you bring here in this room, in this showroom, it's with 20% post-consumer recycled cotton. That's mandatory. There is nothing else. And people were surprised because you still have myth buster in this industry. But even the younger generation, they don't. There is no the expertise doesn't go back to the young generation, and I feel guilty sometimes, to be honest. And that's why also one of my center of interest is not to change, but how we can make sure that these young designers, young product developers, we give them the tools to start in the right path. Because my God, if we want to change, we need to change the young generation.
Yeah, and you had mentioned to me before this that you're getting into the schools. You're getting into the schools where the designers are being trained, and giving them this insight so that they come out without the myths from the older generations telling them that this is no good.
Yeah. But you get the two reactions, because I know the dinosaurs also, and suddenly they discover they feel guilty. So like me in a way, you feel guilty before because we didn't know. To be honest, we were not aware of what we were doing, and now you say no, now let's do the right stuff. So in a way, our responsibility, we knew the before and the after, but for the young generation, we have to get only the after, and they don't need to know and spend time on how it was before. And that's why we spend quite a lot of time with schools in Amsterdam, in Paris, but they are more receptive for the cause first.
Well, they've got all this eco anxiety thing going, right? So this gives them some empowerment to say, I can do something, like there is something positive that exists that works to take a step forward.
And you can feel they really want to contribute. They want to be part of the change. Mm-hmm. And so I think they will be part of it. I'm more concerned on how the brands can provide this education, because internally, unfortunately, there is not such a knowledge, expertise sharing in brands today. You're a product developer, you're a designer, you design your product, but there is no ingredients. We don't give them these tools. That's the problem, I believe.
Why? What changed?
I don't know. It's and denim especially. It's not a t-shirt. It's not a. So you need to know a little bit behind the scene. Who are the mills? Who are the guys? Who are the good ones? The bad ones? And you need to have a minimum of technical knowledge or base to understand a little bit the dynamics here. And I think we don't provide, or some people come from design from another project to denim. So we try to build this community, but there is not such a education platform.
I mean, I'm picturing that in the past, when it all started, which wasn't that long ago, that you understood where it all came from. Like you understood the whole supply chain, and that you were starting with cotton, you were starting with the farmer, you were starting with how it all moves forward and what all the parts of the puzzle are. And now you've got you're sitting in front of a computer and just typing stuff, and looking at pictures. Is that the big change? And if so, do you bring people back to where it starts in nature and get them to understand? Is that helpful?
Look, big corporate, I cannot say name, but I have the chance to work in different size. Yeah. The first part of my career, I never touch a system. My people, or my designers, my product developers, what they were doing every day is to touch product, to touch fabrics, creating technical packs at the minimum, but they were really on product 100% of the time. 100%. If you look now, what's the role, the job description of a product developer today in a corporate? But you spend 98% behind the computer, feeding the system, feeding the ERP, feeding all this software, where it's coming from, the cotton. So you became a kind of secretary to feed the monster. And the objective is to make reports. Make reports. And so report, it's very important. This report culture, how many days, or sometimes traceability. Traceability. Let's put everything in the computer and we can trace everything.
It's all data. And it depends on what you do with the data. It's all data. There's no...
They put data. How much time they spend on the product? Not a lot. I can tell you the frustration of the young generation, not spending time on fitting, on fabric research, on whatever, on the inspiring trip. We used to travel for inspiring to Tokyo, to Japan, to see new things. There is not so much happening these days. It's really behind a computer.
So it sounds like that's some of what you're doing, like that you're getting people to come out and touch the difference between the fabrics. And
For example, to kill this mythbuster about recycled cotton, it's bad quality, visually it's bad. So we tackle the contrary. Look, all the fabrics, these jeans have been made with this, and show them, touch them, wear them, try it on, and tell me the difference. Did you feel any difference? We even showed a lab report about steering strengths, longevity.
Because you got to have the data and the reports.
Yeah. This you can have it. So look, on top of it, they're as durable as a virgin cotton. So can you tell me now what will be the excuse not to adopt it? So that's why we try to reverse the equation. There is no more excuses not to adopt such a metric. We have to make it very accessible, understandable, and very pragmatic with showcase on product. That's the best thing.
So it sounds like it's going well. You've got this. Just tell us about like this bigger goal. Like where are you going from here? What are some of your dreams about where this, where this goes next? We like to dream.
Yeah. The first 3 years, just in Netherlands, we produce around 12 million pair of jeans with this 20% post-consumer recycled cotton. The initial target given by the Dutch government was 3 million, so we multiply by 4 the initial target. So we were extremely happy. Yeah. And now for the global perspective, because now we want to become global, we would like to reach 1 billion pair of jeans by 2030 in 5 years. Because if we reach the right guys, the right brands, the right industry, we believe that we can tackle 20% of the yearly market production.
Tipping point? Is that the tipping point? Like if you feel like you can get to 1 billion pairs and make it somewhat global, that like it'll be an acceptable brand identity.
Yeah. So that's why we choose this metric of 20%, because it's already there. The technology exists. It's quite scalable already. So it's not too demanding, because if we put the bar too high, definitely the number of the impact will be less. Yeah. So we try to choose a metric that we drive a big impact. I prefer to do 1 billion jeans with 20% POCR than 10,000 jeans with 100% recycled cotton.
Yeah.
Because we have to look at the scale and how many metric tons of waste, post-consumer waste, we are going to put it back in the loop. This is our objective. So that's why we choose this metric, because it's with a little effort, it's achievable.
And it touches 6 million people instead of only 10,000 people. So they're part of the new system.
Exactly. You transform step by step the industry, and everybody knows about the Denim deal in the industry. We try to be a little bit everywhere in the world to speak about it. And I think the industry is quite enthusiastic. The only thing is that, Nicolas, amazing, whatever, we have the technology, but we need demand. We need to get the orders. And that's the thing. I mean, it happens the same with, chemical recycling fibers in the Nordics, in Europe, with this Renewcell bankrupt or etc. The concept is there, everything is there, but if there is no demand, this company go bankruptcy. So that's why we choose this metric, that it's already at scale and mature, the technology that we can scale around the.
Well, it's interesting because the sale has to be, if you need demand, the brand has to claim something that people want. So we need to claim that it's a good thing to recycle. It's a good thing to have fiber, to not keep abusing the earth, and to save 6 billion times 20% of the amount of cotton that's not used, like, and indigo and chemicals and all the rest of it. Like, how's that going? Because that's your big part of your NGO's role, right?
Yeah. So this is probably the phase, the B2C, because we have probably the power, even as an NGO, as a Denim deal, as a foundation. I think we have to work on the narrative regarding the consumer, because he's in the equation. He's the one going to decide. And if we can have direct access, us directly, the storytelling, inspiring storytelling to the consumer, I can tell you the brands will run to us. So this is the next phase of our strategy. It's how we can provide added value for the brand, but with the consumer as a target. Yeah. What will be the narrative? How are we going to tell our story that it's a good thing to buy such a product, and the reason are and I think we have to be completely disruptive in the way we communicate that, because if you look the last 10, 15 years with the greenwashing, I think it was a tsunami of cacophony of messages or whatever. I think we have to think through and offer something a little bit different, completely different to the consumer. And so we are working on that. I think this is the big piece that could also attract the brands. And there they will, because brands now, what's happening? They are so scared with regulation coming. So it's not the greenwashing anymore, it's the green hushing. So they stop any communication. So probably they were not doing a lot anyway. But even people still doing stuff, they rather not to communicate.
If you say nothing, you can't get sued, right?
Yeah,
if you don't make any claims, then, right?
It's a legal risk now. And in a way, sometimes we laugh with some of my colleagues, but legal department took over the sustainable department. They are the ones saying, yes.
It's incredible.
No. And most of the time is no, we don't go to this initiative. We don't go because we don't understand it. We are not sure. And from a legal perspective, we are at risk. It's unbelievable. This business has been ruled by the legal. Mm-hmm. But it depends which area in the world. Yeah. But even that, so we believe that if we work on this directly communication to the consumer, why this pair of jeans is different, this added value, whatever the $20 retail more, brands will adopt it. It is not going to be easy again about adopt a communication coming from somebody outside. But we make sure that everything that we can claim will be backed up with report, data, certification, and this is where we have the added value also of the Denim deal. We can prove.
Right.
If we don't do that, we don't be proud of it. Be proud to share this truth and what we have done. So I think this is where we need to step in. But I really believe on the leverage of authorities and legislation, because it has to be mandatory. We need to squeeze a little bit the pressure. Mm-hmm. But the consumer trigger, it's probably the most powerful.
So the consumer has to be asking. So let me ask you this. Yes. We'll wrap it up with what can we do as consumers to help move this along in denim and in the world in general? Like, what are the messages? How can we help? And then tell us what your dream is. Because I think there's something even.
The first thing the consumer it's obviously you're attracted or not by this pair of clothes, whatever is a denim, whatever. So I think this desirability is still there. I mean, you look good, you feel good in this cardigan or whatever. So I think I still believe in design. I still believe in creation and how to attract the consumer. So I think that's the first thing we should still. But after, don't look immediately to the price tag. Yeah, because it's cheap. It's whatever it is. And most of the time, you don't look where it's been made. But you should look a little bit, the few information you have on the product, because you don't have a lot, to be honest. Mm-hmm. If you have a made in, normally it's mandatory in Europe, but look where it has been made. And I think try to think about it, because you don't see the other side of the equation, all these little hands behind the screen or behind the product who has made all the effort and the way they live or whatever their stories. Think about it. But people are very compulsive buyers. They please them first, but they don't think through how
that's the mentality. That's the transformation we need, right? We need us to think about, why is this so cheap? What possibly could be happening to create a pair of jeans that cost $19 that I paid the same amount 40 years ago for? Like, what is not working in this system that what shouldn't be happening that's allowing me to do this versus, hey, I get to get another pair of jeans that I'll wear for 1 week.
Yeah, it's sad, but in a way, if you look at the economical situation in Europe, the consumer behavior is shifting also because the inflation or whatever, it's getting tougher, and people buying cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Mm-hmm. So we are in this in this lab, it's real, and it's difficult to get it out. And how we can give alternative to the consumers and try to explain them. But there is very, very. I think France is not because I'm French, but they try step by step to sensibilize, even with TV spots about recycling, reuse, repaired, on textile, on the electronics. I think France, in terms of consummation and trying to engage the consumer, trying its best. I'm not saying is it working or not, but I think they really step in this communication side.
France is certainly ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, on reporting, on requirements, the downstream, the upstream, the whole cycle, like, it's a lot of heavy stuff for companies that do business in France, but somebody's got to be in the lead. So thank you.
Yeah. You need a front runner. You need a leader. You need a proof of concept, and it has to be successful. And step by step, you have the followers will jump in, and that's what we try to do in the Denim deal to get the right team, the right brands, not because of the size, but inspiring brands, more front runners, good image, and then the others will come. It's always like that. You need to create this movement, this energy, and step by step you grow like a snowball and it's become bigger. And there are one momentum, you're in magnet. Everybody won't jump on us. So we are in this phase now. We're not yet the magnet, but we are a little snowball.
There's energy.
From a personal experience, it's extremely motivating to do that than to bring a bottom line of margin or EBITDA. It's so much more.
Like, what do you spend your days doing? You talk about things you want to be talking about, not about the margin and
exactly
to the eighth decimal point.
Trying my best to change the mindset of people. But that's very.
Words of wisdom. What do you got for us? Tell us how we can all transform the world.
Yeah, all transform. Yeah, behaviors. Do you need to buy all this stuff first? Buy less, buy better. And the few ones you buy, try to understand how they have been made. Do you need all this stuff? I'm wondering, I'm not a minimalist guy or whatever, but do we need to consume all this stuff? Do you need all that? And when you choose something, choose wisely, choose quality. That's my wise words.
And I'm going to add, choose things that you know are safe for your body when you put them on your body, or as safe as possible.
As safe as possible, exactly.
And thank you so much. Such a joy hearing, and so important, the work you're doing. It's the energy that needs to transform the whole fashion industry, and it had to start somewhere, and thank you for being the one to start it.
Thank you, Jessica.
This has been a production of BLI Studios, produced by me, Kai. Follow along with our other BLI produced shows at balancinglifesissues.com/podcast-BLI. Got an idea for the show? Email me, Kai, at balancinglifesissues.com. And don't forget to stay in touch with your host, Jessica, at jessica@winwinwinmindset.com. Anything else to add, Miles?
Yeah.